Welcome to Every Friday with Dan and Olivia. I'm Dan Miles.
And I'm Olivia Darbo. Hi.
As you know, we usually start the show with some music. We didn't do that today, but that's certainly not because we're not going to be hearing any music. In fact, the focal point of today's episode will be music. And best of all, it will be the music of...
Me.
That's right, you. We're going to open up the Olivia Vault, and we're going to be listening to some unreleased tracks. I'm excited to hear this.
Closet classics.
We're going to hear some earlier versions of songs that ended up on Olivia's Not TV album. And we're also going to hear some exclusive rare recordings that haven't been heard anywhere before.
Wow, that's so rare.
We've played some of your tunes before, and a lot of the listeners, frankly, own Not TV and love it. You know, I should mention when we were in Los Angeles recording at Roddenberry Studios, you had taken the opportunity to give me these tracks. Thank you for that. And so now is our opportunity to listen to these. It's going to be interesting. The versions are quite different, and be interesting for people to contrast and compare and, sort of decide what they like about each one. And there's not necessarily subtle differences. I mean, they're pretty substantial differences. So,
yeah, the first one, Addicted, it pretty much became an entirely new song. But I'll explain that when we get to it.
Yes, let's remind everybody about the 2008 version that we're probably familiar with. Let's give that a listen and talk a little bit about why that one is, what it is, and how it is. And then we'll listen to the earlier version. So here we go.
So you put a spell on me, stuck like honey to a bee. Couldn't any other chick, 'cause you made my knees go weak inside. Had so many butterflies. You made me feel so high. Now I'm addicted to. I'm addicted to you. This flower is in full bloom. I'm addicted to you. Oh, can't you hear me coo? Oh, and I wanna be around you. Oh, I'm so glad I found you. I'm addicted. All heads turn as they wait to see my reaction. And my face lights up like a little kid when I try to explain the things we did together. Kill myself now just to see your face. And when the lights go down in Tinseltown, you come to me, you pull me into you. Well, I never felt so good inside. I've got name comes up in conversation.
All right.
I love how it ends. It
Yeah,
just kind of.
a little synthy. Well, that's one of the main things I noticed when I first heard it was the synth bass, sort of, real synthesized bass. But, the tasty vocal harmonies throughout your vocals, your accompanying vocals behind your lead vocal are really cool. And the use of the strings is good. But I like the part where the drums drop out and how they return. So, musically it's cool, but, lyrically, so it's a song about infatuation.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the thing I love about this song, and I don't want to give too much away before you play the other version, but it has gone through many permutations, and in a way I'm glad that it did, because it ended up coming back to its original melody and the dichotomous aspect of the song that was meant when I wrote it, which was it's about darkness and light. I mean, it's, it goes from, so you put a spell on me. It's very almost like a jazzy Doris Day song, or a kind of, it's got this kind of upbeat, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed thing, that a couple of other tracks on the album like Ne'er-Do-Well and, just any song really that I write that's jazz-based has that kind of implemented melody that's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. But ultimately, because I think I wrote this song on the guitar, every song that I was kind of really writing on the guitar at that stage in my writing songwritership was, it ended up sounding like a Nirvana song, you know what I mean? Or it ended up sounding, I'm not a brilliant guitar player. I'm more of a keyboardist. So, a lot of the melodies that you write on guitar, they end up sounding poppy, if you only, I think number one, if you're in the right direction, it's great that it sounds poppy. But I always like, as a songwriter, approaching my material that I write and having a contrast of darkness and light. But because these were kind of jazzy chords that I wrote in an open-tuned, almost Joni Mitchell style, I felt like it needed to go somewhere dark, and which it returned to when I finally ended up recording it for Not TV. The second version that you're going to play, I think, the producer, Patrick Leonard, really wanted to make it sound more like a hit. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes, I'm all for that. That's great. Everybody wants a hit. But sometimes I think ultimately what sustains and creates longevity for music is staying true to the melody and what the originality of the song was, the purpose of the song was.
Yeah, the original inspiration, absolutely. But we're about to hear has a different rhythm and a different melody. So, but it's still recognizable as the same song. So, let's check that out right now.
And also, there's two completely different drummers. The one that you just heard was the one that you're about to hear is Vinnie Colaiuta, and the drummer on the last one played on Sheryl Crow's Leaving Las Vegas album, mm-hmm. Brian McLeod, who's a good friend of yours, Dan. So, right. It's interesting when you bring different musicians in, and which you'll hear just contrasting to these two tracks, which are the sort of the same song, what musicians do and their renditions of it. And that can sometimes change a singer's inflection, because you're just in there energetically with a whole different group of people.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, Vinnie Colaiuta is one of the greats. And, like Brian McLeod and Vinnie Colaiuta, guys who record a lot of different styles all the time, they know how to serve the song. But you're right. There's certain things we just do as our unique self that if you get, this is why Steely Dan would record their songs with 5 or 6 different bands, not just switch the drum, they switch the whole band, the whole rhythm section, and try different people just to see what they could all bring to it. So yeah, that's a great point. Well, let's check this out, this alternate version of Olivia's song Addicted.
So you put a spell on me, stuck like honey to a bee. Couldn't turn the other cheek, 'cause you made my knees go weak inside. Had so many butterflies, you made me feel so high. addicted to you. I'm addicted to you. This flower is in full bloom. I'm addicted to you. Oh, can't you hear me coo? Just wanna be around you every day and every night. I'm addicted to you. When the lights go down in Tinseltown, you come to me, you pull me into you. But I never felt so good inside. I gotta love, it's by my side. And I'm addicted to you, like the lovers in the spray. I'm addicted to you. Oh, I'm so glad you're mine. Just wanna be around you. I'm so glad I found you. I'm addicted to you. Well, you shoot me up and I never come down. Yeah, turn this lonely heart around. When you smile, this world's a better place. I'd kill myself now just to see your face. And your name comes up in conversation. I said your name comes up in conversation. And I'm addicted to you. This flower is in full bloom. I'm addicted to you. Oh, can't you hear me coo? Just wanna be around you every day and every night. I'm addicted to you. And when your name comes up in conversation, all heads turn as they wait to see my reaction. And my face lights up like a little kid when I try to explain the things we did together. The lights go down in Tinseltown. You come to me, you pull me into you.
Well, you're speaking about lighter and darker. That definitely, it's more playful and plays to the light more.
Yeah,
As
completely different song. I mean, it's really amazing when I compare the two. Yes, essentially they have the same title. And I don't really know what happened in the studio that day because I had recorded it originally when I first played it to Patrick. He actually really embraced, the darkness and the lightness, and he was like, what is that? I don't even know what you're playing on the guitar, these kind of open jazzy chords, and your thumbs over here, and it's jazzy, but I don't know whether to go kind of Brazilian with it or calypso or, it was a very original song, and I personally am glad that we got back to it for the actual album. But at this stage I was still kind of more in the developmental process of my sound, and I think everybody got really excited about this version just because it was more in your face. You know what I'm saying? It's not as mysterious, I think, as the first track that we played that's on the album. But, you know, Patrick Leonard is a really renowned producer for people going to him and him, you know, getting their songs on the radio. And we've discussed this, funnily enough, on our show, where whenever we play music or have what have you, and we compare, you know, different decades and stuff, and we've talked about certain artists who, you know, are sort of looking for a hit. I think that you know, looking for airplay is always something that's kind of on the top of a producer's mind. And I don't really know what happened in the studio that day, but he said, you know, let me just try some things. I'm just going to I'm not going to change the chords, but I'm just going to kind of, you know, play with the key. And it's interesting where it sat in my voice too, because as a singer, it made me, the chords that I think he went up a notch, or he just changed some inflections, and, you know, he was sort of more like open tuning on the piano that he was playing. And so it kind of shifted into more of an R&B place. And so that sort of made me want to kind of sing it differently. And I think as a producer, that was kind of what he was going for, was maybe more of an R&B sound rather than, you know, so you put a spell on me, you know, this sort of more wispy, almost French coquettish sound that ended up being on the album, which is really, I mean, I do have R&B inflections when I sing, but this song isn't really that. Not the way I wrote it. That's one of the interesting things about music, is music can be anything you want it to be. And it's great to be able to have the freedom to play with a song and try different things. I mean, that's a liberty that we should all have the fortune of being able to do and be able to record it. I mean, it's a really cool thing. And it's interesting also, I think, how time plays is an interesting component for reflection on, ultimately you come back to the truth. I think that you serve the song. You should ultimately come back and serve the song the way that the song needs to be served.
Yeah, I can honestly say if I was presented with both of those versions, I would prefer the one that was released. You know, the one we just heard, there's a prominent acoustic guitar, rhythm guitar, that gives it a whole different texture. But, you know, there's a line in there, you're talking about the darkness, that actually is a little more buried in the released one and pops a little more in this version. The line about I'd kill myself now just to see your face, you know.
Yeah, well, that's exactly when I wrote it on guitar. I mean, I just love that line. It's like, you know, well, you shoot me up and I never come down 'cause you turn this lonely heart around. So it's like I get the opportunity to almost have a sense of humor about it, I think, in the version that I released on the album, the first one that we played. I think, and that's just an interesting thing in life and in art, is that I think that great art needs darkness and light. It has to kind of bridge, and it's like walking a tightrope. I mean, that you need a contrast in all art. And it's really nice when the two merge and you can sort of say, oh, you know, I'm gonna play with this line. I've got a dark chord, but I'm going to sing a happy lyric. Right. That strikes a chord in people listening to it. It's like the song Undertow, which is the first song on my album. It's a very poppy, you know, Brit rock kind of song. It almost reminds me of a Kinks song. But, you know, the lyrics are, it's funny how time moves along, yet I can't seem to sing and it's funny how time moves along, yet I can't seem to strum a chord of happiness, you know. But yet it's it's almost like a Beatles song. So it's again, I love to write that way, because that's sort of the way I look at life, and that I feel life. It's like it's always kind of slightly in conflict.
Yeah,
because I'm an artist.
Well, speaking of conflict, there's two ways to interpret a line like I'd kill myself to see you. Like, one is I'd do anything to see you. You know, that's one way to take it. And the other way is you're dead, so the only way I can see you is if I'm also dead. You know what I mean?
Right,
so,
exactly.
I'd kill
it's
myself
a double entendre, yeah.
Yeah, I'd kill myself now just to see your face. But it flies by, and particularly in the second version where the tempo's faster. So in the slower, glitchier one with the synth bass, the line is there, and I read the lyric sheet when I first got your album, but I just noticed the line more in the lighter version, but it's a darker line. So that was my point about contrast.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, the little nuances sometimes to experiment, which I'm so lucky that I got to do on this prior album that I did, and I don't know if I'm not the only musician or artist that does many different permutations of a song until it speaks to them.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can go way out in left field until you end up coming right back to center, where you were. But to be able to trust it and stand behind it, sometimes you need to do that. It's sort of part of the process. But I think because of the chords, also musically, it needs that kind of Portuguese, almost calypso, thing brought into it, which can be melancholy too, which again lends itself to the darkness of the song, yet the happy-go-lucky aspect of the song as well.
Well, I'm thinking if there was a woman who felt like she was addicted to me and she was singing this theme about me, which version would I feel more comfortable with? Because like the version we just played just kind of sounds like, oh, I'm just chill, this is so great, and the other one is a little bit more intense. It's like it's a little bit more of an intense of an infatuation, like maybe a little bit scary.
Well, I mean, that's all subjective, obviously. I mean, I think going a little bit scarier is always more interesting, because you're putting more out on the line, and you're not playing it safe. And it's not a safe song.
Was that song was that song written about a specific person or just about that feeling in general?
Not really written about a specific person, more so an experience of love and infatuation. There's another line that's really interesting that I love too, that really reminds me of kind of why I wrote the song. I don't know if you've ever been to a party and somebody's name comes up, and I write about that in the song. I say, and your name comes up in conversation. When your name comes up in conversation, all heads turn as they wait to see my reaction. And my face lights up like a little kid when I try to explain the things we did together. So, the narrative, in terms of how I wrote it, it's almost like it's getting very personal, and I'm kind of exposing, that I'm addicted to someone, and then, to this person or to this feeling. Am I addicted to what is love when you sort of break it down? Are you addicted just to the person or the feeling that person emotes in you, at any given second? And so what was interesting about, I think the way I wrote it was I kind of go from first person narrative to talking about myself at a dinner party. Do you know what I mean? It kind of goes off into this.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a party. It can be an office situation too, where there's people that are around each other a lot, and we mention a name, and maybe we can tell by somebody's reaction that they have a special interest in that person, or they might act like their behavior sort of is a tell. It's a little giveaway. For me, it's more of an office situation than a party situation. When I'm at a party, I just assume that everybody there is talking about me. I mean, that's logical, right?
And they are, Dan.
Of course. Well, fortunately, we get a chance to do this all again because there's another song that appeared on Not TV that there is also a previous version of. It's the song Medicine Girl. So let's go ahead and listen to the one that the Not TV owners have. And we should also make the point, if you don't own Not TV, what the hell, go buy it. Come on, support Olivia. So yeah, here we go.
It's a good album.
It is. It's awesome. This is a great song too, and it's also interesting to hear, the development. So let's remind everybody about the Medicine Girl we've heard before, and then we will check out the alternate reality.
It's time to take your medicine, girl. You know you're gonna need it. 'Cause when your back gives out, the levee's gonna break. It's deep, deep water numbing my skin. I can feel the chill on my bone and the feelings icy cold now. Don't need no miracle to prove that I've got emotion. 'Cause just to be with you, that's when I am who I am. So won't you lay with me and stay with me? Let's look at all the possibilities. Be with me. You're so free with me. I look in your eyes, you know I can feel, you know I can see, you know I can. I want to break out. I want to be gone. I want to be you. Would you say that there's a way to lead the lonely? In a day, you changed my mind. I want to go home. I want to break up. I want to be gone. I want to be you. I want to go home. I want to live up to my expectations. I want to break out. Yeah, and I want to shout. I want to feel like this world is changing. I want to be you. You want to be me.
And 5 minutes in, a muted trumpet shows up.
Yeah, Susie Katayama, who incidentally was the genius, aside from Prince, she was the genius behind the whole Purple Rain musicianship on that album, and a lot of Prince's amazing work during that time. And she just put in this incredible little symphony with her, and that trumpeter just went off at the end of that recording. I mean, we did it all live, and he just kind of like took us to sort of some little Parisian cafe at sort of 3 a.m. And it really, I like where it went. I mean, that's a great example of sort of different musicians that you bring into the room. They have a interpretation of what the song means to them, and because of that, they add something that maybe you never would have even thought about. So that's another great thing that music does, is it's, people like to sit there and analyze, what does the song mean, and this, that, and the other, but ultimately the best way to describe something or to is through your interpretation and play it rather than speak it.
Yeah, it's true. And as we discussed the very first time we spoke about all this, the glitchy synth bass is an interesting choice because it's not what anybody else will do. The beam boom, boom, boom. It kind of creates a sort of strange tension. And like I said, what's this muted trumpet doing here at the end? And these ambient sounds. Also, if you listen really closely to the string parts during the song, those kind of ones. The parts themselves are really interesting. Sometimes they go a little dissonant. Sometimes they don't. They're kind of played a little bit almost kind of happy. Which is against the song. And one of the things that really struck me when I heard your music in the beginning was your ability to harmonize with yourself. Your vocal harmonies are always, they're not just on pitch, but and they're not just tight, but they have a sort of personality and a character to them. You don't just do it the same every time. Like certain people, every time they sing a harmony, it just always sounds the same. So I guess it's being an actor, you can do like different characters and adapt and adjust to what the particular, like you said, your lead vocal on the song we heard earlier, the earlier version of Addicted, like you said, you're trying to sort of, some people always, they sound the same no matter what they do. You know what I mean? And then some people, they can sound so different from one thing to another that you wonder if it's the same person. But the glitchy synth bass, the vocal harmonies, the string parts, the trumpet at the end, that's what strikes me musically. And then lyrically, you had said you deliberately wanted it to be somewhat mysterious, what it was actually about or who it was actually about. And we'd kind of left it at that. So is that kind of where you still are on the lyrics of that song?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes out there into a place of really leaving it up to your own interpretation. I talk about God and wanting to be, I want to be God. Who doesn't want to be God? And I think also, not unlike another song that I wrote that went on the album called Caroline, is sometimes what happens to me when I write a song is I start in one place, in theory, writing it about someone or being with someone or experiencing someone, and then something different unfolds, and it goes somewhere else, which is just kind of me. It's just that I kind of tend to cover more than just one territory, and maybe that's because I really like to just let the song and the music kind of take you where it takes you, rather than trying to be so specific about no, it's this kind of song. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think what I really like about this interpretation is that there's a lot of space in it, and it's got an ambiance to it. So it's a mood. It sets a mood, and I think through that mood, the lyrics have the ability to go out there and just sort of lull, if you will.
Well, I've been working on a lot of lyrics lately myself because I have some music I'm putting lyrics to that I want to record soon. And what I've been doing lately is, instead of deciding what the song is about, I'm kind of letting it tell me, because I've got the instrumental beds and I sing the songs on my way to work, just sing. It's just the vowel sounds or whatever. And when a word or a line occurs to me, I pop it in my voice recorder to remember it. And then a couple tunes I thought, I know what this should be about. And then as the lyrics have sort of unfolded, it's taken a turn and it's gone in a different direction. I'm still writing about something relevant, but it's not what I originally set out to write about. And I've kind of learned to sort of let that happen, because I think my subconscious is dropping a line in there and I go, oh, that's actually better than what my conscious mind is thinking.
Yeah. And I think that's a really big component in expressing yourself musically, but not necessarily trying to control it so much. Sometimes you have to allow it, like you said, take you there. I was saying it just kind of goes out there. The lyrics kind of go out there and they lull. I think what I meant is they kind of linger in this place where they're sort of trying to find the direction that the song kind of wants to take you to. I think also what's interesting about writing a song, the more comfortable you become as a songwriter, you tend to experience yourself in different ways. And this song, it's not necessarily that it's sort of about a man or a woman, but it's female energy, and it's sensual, And I think that was really predominant in the melody and the lyrics. And so I think then it sort of just took on its own interpretation with space and sensuality. And, it's kind of got this musky sort of, you're almost going into another era, if you will, which is why I think the trumpet is such a beautiful thing to play in the song. It kind of just leads you into it. It opens you up to all kinds of possibilities.
Well, speaking of interpretations, as we said earlier, we have another interpretation of this same material. It differs from the comparison we made earlier in some ways. It's similar in other ways. But as you said yourself, instead of talking about it, let it speak for itself. So let's listen to this other version and give everybody a sense of it. And then you can speak to us about your impressions of it. So let's do that.
It's time to take your medicine, girl. You know you're gonna need it. 'Cause when your back gives out, the levee's gonna break. Yeah. And when the water flows out into the ocean, yeah, well then I'm sinking down, down, down into the deep. So lay with me and stay with me. Let's look at all the possibilities. Hey, 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 be with me. You're so free with me. I look into your eyes and I can breathe. I wanna go home. I wanna live up to my expectations. I wanna break out. Yeah, and I wanna shout. I wanna be God. I wanna feel like this world is changing. I wanna be you. You wanna be me. Well, it's deep, deep water numbing my skin, and I feel a chill on my bone. The feeling's icy cold now, yeah. Don't need no miracle to prove that I've got emotion. 'Cause just to be with you, that's when I'm who I am. So won't you lay with me and stay with me? Let's look at all the possibilities. Hey, 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 be with me. I hear you so free with me. When I look in your eyes, you know I can feel, you know I can see, you know I can. Would you say that there's a way to lead the lonely in a day? You changed my mind. I wanna go home. I wanna live up to my expectations. I wanna break out.
Well, I got to say, the guitars and drumming on that make it more similar to your track Revolution in terms of being Pink Floyd-ish.
Yeah.
Definitely, same melody, a smoother rhythm, more traditional bass part, a lot of a lot of guitar, and also a sort of symphonic quality I hadn't really noticed before. Almost like Elton John, "Goodbye Yellow Brick Road" kind of use of strings. That floated along. It sounded to me like when you recorded that, maybe the material was a little fresher and you're a little bit more energized about it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more over the top. And like you said before, trying to sort of find your style as a singer, like you took a different tack on that than in the final version. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I think it's got more youthful angst in it. And I really like that vocal because I did it live with Vinny and I just connected to the material. It's, obviously the first one that we played is more sophisticated and it's more thought out. And, it's, when you talk about something being sophisticated, it's more mature. But I think I hear the lyrics differently in this version. Hearing it, I rarely sort of compare the two and listen to them and go, play them back to back. But it's definitely a more rock and roll approach.
But it still has that tempo that Pink Floyd like to sit in, that sort of ride cymbal tempo. There's a lot of Pink Floyd tracks, and the opening of Revolution is a different tempo, but it also kind of brings you in with that Alan Parsons Project. So I mean, this version would have fit on Not TV, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I do. I think I don't disagree on that at all. I think it's funny that you compare it to that. You think that it could be sort of a cousin to Revolution, because it sounds more like a rock ballad.
Yeah, I wouldn't put them right next to each other on the album. I'd put some separation between them, but they sound like they sort of belong in the same wheelhouse in terms of the rhythm section and musically. In terms of your vocal performance, it was much, much different than Not TV.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there was definitely a time, and there still is with stuff that I write today, where the engineer was saying, Michael Verdict was saying, "Oh, she's a loose cannon. We've let her out of the gate. You're not quite sure, what's going to come next. It's more dangerous. It's so interesting to play these 4 renditions of these 2 songs, because it's a great example of as an artist, whilst you're in the midst of either developing your sound or really trying to kind of find out what the song means to you and how you want to sing it and where it sits.
Medicine Girl, you got to take your medicine. You better take it. It can be vindictive, like, ha ha, now you got to take your medicine. Or it can be like supportive, like, oh, you're ill, take your medicine. The word medicine has different applications. So you can kind of give a hint by the attitude you take when you sing the lyrics. In my case, particularly the version I'm used to, which is the version I've heard the most, it sounds supportive. Lay with me, stay with me, take your medicine. But with this, like you said, more youthful angst thing, it's kind of like, oh, you better take your medicine. Like a little bit more like, here comes your karma now. Like that kind of attitude too. So, and as I said, something that works on different levels is always good.
Mm-hmm.
You just to be aware as an artist that somebody may not take it on the level you intended. The one I always come back to is Randy Newman's Short People. He's right.
Yeah.
He wanted to make a joke about people being prejudiced, and some people just took it literally. They didn't get the joke, and they thought he was prejudiced against short people, and then they like missed the point. But you have to understand that there's going to be a certain group of people that does that. Anytime you adopt a character, like I know Eminem has had that issue too, where he goes, well, hey, it's not me, it's just the character in the song. And they go, yeah, but who wrote the song? You. Who's singing the song? You. Whose voice is it? Whose face is it? So there's certain people, they don't really draw a distinction between the fictional world that's going on in your head and the presentation they're seeing. So. I mean, Short People should have been obvious, because what kind of a jerk off is going to go in front of everybody and rag on any group of people like that? I mean, you should have got the joke. But hey, there it is. Well, now we're going to listen to some never before heard tunes that were not included on the Not TV album. So thanks in advance for sharing these with us. The first one we're going to hear is a song called Ordinary.
There's nothing every day about you. You said you stand out. You've got wings on your back, you've got bells on your toes. You stand out. Modern girls don't get by on their looks anymore. Yeah, modern girls, they take every opportunity, knocking at their door. And sometimes we all feel like ordinary people, yeah. And some days we feel like we just stick out. But this time it's enough to be ordinary by your side. I've got ordinary hair, got an ordinary stare, got an ordinary laugh. I've got some ordinary cares, and I've got ordinary stress, and I must confess, if I see you tonight, I wear an ordinary dress. There's a judge and a jury living in my head. I trip out. Said, are you strong enough to be perfect enough? Are you gonna give up? Actually, I guess that you don't know me at all. Just another Cinderella. I'm looking for a fella to take me to the ball. And sometimes we all feel like ordinary people, yeah. And some days we feel like we just stick out. But this time it's enough to be ordinary by your side. Maybe in your eyes, that's what makes me shine. I've got ordinary hair, got an ordinary stare, got an ordinary laugh, got some ordinary cares. I take up ordinary space, come from an ordinary place. I've got ordinary eyes, I've got an ordinary face. I've got ordinary stress, and I must confess, if I see you tonight, I'll wear an ordinary dress.
So let's start with this. A little giggle caught on microphone at the end there with the organ.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The organ that was under your voice there. I mean, that's really one of the most prominent, noticeable things about that track musically, and also
Yeah.
a harmonica solo at the end. I haven't really heard harmonica on your stuff before. I mean, tasteful chord changes, good mid-tempo, interesting combination of acoustic and electric guitars. So musically, mid-tempo is always good because usually you have slow songs and you have fast songs. And mid-tempo ones, I think people tend to write less. That's the thing about reggae. Reggae I consider mid-tempo music. It's not a slow song or a fast song. It's kind of in the middle. Then every album kind of needs something that's mid-tempo. But, let's talk about these lyrics. Is this about being content to be ordinary, or is it really about celebrating the ordinary? Because it seems to be like, it's like a little versus perfection. Like I'm not worried about being perfection. I'm ordinary and I'm cool with that.
It again, this song came to me and was initially recorded by a guy called Thomas Barkey, and we did a version of it, and um, it was very, it was more moody. It was more like bouncy, had like a bouncy bass behind it, and this is it ended up turning into like a country song. Patrick said to me, just throw it away, because it was initially the first recording. It was laying in a different place in my voice. That I actually sometimes when something's not in the right key for you, it can either be dreadful and go completely south because it's such a strain, or it's a little bit of a strain that it adds a kind of a tension to a vocal that ultimately is quite endearing because it's disarming to the listener because you're just kind of barely getting there and you connect with some emotion and it sort of makes it beautiful and it works. So this was a song that I guess I was feeling very ordinary at that particular stage in my life. And I guess I have had I think when I was younger, I had sort of an ugly duckling sensibility. I was really super skinny and I had these buck teeth and my nickname in junior high was Bucktooth Beaver. And so I was, a very big part of me has always felt ordinary. So I guess it's sort of about an ordinary girl really meeting ultimately somebody who sees her for who she really is. I think that's kind of what I meant lyrically by it. If you and wearing a certain kind of dress, if I see you tonight, I'll wear an ordinary dress. So it's also being owning that part of myself, I think, and sort of just putting it into lyrics. Again, it's that contrasting element. The way it comes off produced serially is there's a dichotomous element to it because the way I originally wrote it was much more melancholy, macabre. But then Patrick said, "Hey, let's just throw it away and let's give it kind of a bumbling country up tempo or mid tempo thing and see if you want to sing it differently." And so, yes, again, it did bring out a different vocal performance out of me where I just kind of threw it away and didn't really think about how I was going to sing it. I just kind of gave it a laissez-faire kind of approach in my developmental time in the studio. Because it's interesting, if you compare this to like Medicine Girl, it was recorded at the same time in the same studio with the same sessions. And that's much more in your face and owning it in a very different way. And this one's much more laid back. And because the lyrics are kind of melancholic, but I throw them away. And it's I'm playing against, or let's say producerally, I was sort of directed to kind of play against making it like something that I had to sing a certain way, just sort of throwing it away. And I think, when that happens, the harmonica comes in and it turns into more of maybe a Dylan-esque feel and flair, where it's more relaxed.
Well, there's also some lines in there. Is it about another person or another version of yourself? When it says, you've got wings on your back, you've got bells on your toes, you stand out. So it's like you're singing to another person, like, I'm going to be ordinary. I'm going to show up in my ordinary dress, but you stand out. It almost makes it sound like you're okay with the other person being in the center of attention and you're playing a role where you're like more of a supportive role.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much supportive. What I hear is, and it's hard to hear it because I'm taking it less seriously when I sing it in this rendition, is what the lyrics that kind of follow what the lines that you just mentioned is, and modern girls don't get by on their looks anymore. Yeah, and modern girls, they take every opportunity knocking at their door. And sometimes we all feel like ordinary. So there's different flares and flavors and themes that are sprinkled through the ordinary aspect of the chorus. Right. I think really, if you listen to the lyrics, it's harder to hear them in this song because it's sort of, they're so thrown away and they're more lazy. But it's not just about being an ordinary. It's about kind of the times that we're living in. And it's a woman, a young woman asking herself to be seen for who she really is. And if she's just ordinary, that should be okay, that one should see beneath the aesthetic and look for something deeper.
What about there's a judge and a jury living in my head?
Yeah, there's a judge and a jury living in my head. I trip out. Are you strong enough to be perfect enough? Do you want to give up? Actually, I guess that you don't know me at all. I'm a modern Cinderella who's looking for a fella to take me to the ball. Oh my God, I was so young when I wrote these lyrics. It was like really the genesis of my. I don't think I'd quite found my narrative voice yet, but I think I was playing with the sensibility of there's more than meets the eye, and as the outside person meeting me, it's like challenging somebody to see beneath the aesthetic, or to see beneath, you can't just feel like you get everything about somebody by seeing how they dress or how they wear their hair, or like look beyond the obvious.
Yeah, well, I don't think many people would describe you as being ordinary, because you star in films, and you have a look. The ugly duckling thing. I mean, Michael Jackson felt that way. He had acne for a while. He didn't like his nose, and he ended up just like destroying his face and changing his skin color. He had they call it body dysmorphia or whatever it is. He had a low opinion of how he looked, to the extent that he changed himself and looked completely different. So there again, to say that it's like when you see the woman who carries herself as if she's the hottest thing, and by an objective standard, maybe most people would say she isn't. And then you see the other one who looks like a model to everybody, and in her own mind, oh, my earlobes, I hate my earlobes. In other words, she's got one little thing that just ruins it for her. But one thing I want to throw it back to, though, when you're talking about singing songs in different keys, Lou Gramm from Foreigner had mentioned, rock bands, they like to put a song a little bit too high for the singer. In a rock song, so the singer has to kind of strain for it, because then it gives it, like you said, a certain tension and a certain aggressiveness.
Right.
And don't quite put it in their comfort range. Put a little bit out, and and when they did that in Foreigner, he knew they were doing it, and he knew why. The problem is, as you get older, it gets harder to sing those songs. In those
yeah, no,
keys.
Absolutely. But I think, so when I said the ugly duckling thing, I don't think I was ever necessarily ugly per se, but I didn't fit in. And so I think that's what this song was really about when I first wrote it, was paying homage to, and I don't necessarily, again, I think as a writer, as a songwriter, you can come from a place of, who you are, but sometimes it's an extension of who you are. Maybe there's a feeling that you emote as you're writing it, and that feeling then provokes you to go further with it, that maybe you go more into you expand more on, and you then kind of turn into a more extreme version of that feeling. So yeah. I think that's kind of like where you find your narrative voices. You have to be open enough to start with a kernel, right? That's personal to you.
Right.
And for me, I never really fit in. And because of that, I felt ordinary. I didn't feel like I fit in. I felt like, my teeth were too buck and I was too skinny, and I got made fun of. So when I say the ugly duckling thing, I really say it more it's more of a general statement that I think people can identify with, because people have gone through kind of, let's say, a gawky stage in junior high, or maybe high school is more of a kind of painful time for people. But I think everybody can identify with not fitting in, and I certainly could. And I'm glad that I went through that stage, because it made me more compassionate to other human beings. So, maybe people don't think of me that way, but I don't think we ever see ourselves the way that others do. But I remember hearing something about that Paulina Poroskova, that very famous model. She was like, I was, from Russia, and just very, normal looking. And it's like, are you kidding me? You're the supermodel. You're the most beautiful thing on the runway as we speak, to me, in hindsight now, I think the song is really more, rather than being ordinary, it's about not fitting in and wanting to be seen for who you are, wanting to find somebody who sees beneath the obvious, and will give you a little bit more of a time of day, because maybe, even if you just don't fit into the, okay, well, she doesn't have these, 35 bust and 22 waist, and, do you have the depth to see past that?
But come on, I mean, you cornrowed your own hair. That had to win everybody over.
That's exactly the gawky stage that I'm talking about, when I didn't fit in. But the thing is there's nothing I could do about it. And so I didn't really, I didn't try to fit in because I knew I couldn't. What I did do is I leaned more into just my truth, and then I kind of grew out of it and into something else. But I think the best thing you can do when you're pre-adolescent, and you are having those kind of challenges, is just believe in yourself and don't try and be somebody else, even though it's a painful time. Just believe that you are who you are, and just hope that not hope, but love yourself, even if you're not like everybody else, because eventually that will pay off, and nobody's like everybody else. Nobody in the world is like everybody else. We're all kind of walking anomalies, I think.
So what I hear you saying is, it's not easy being you. And interestingly enough, the next song we're gonna hear, segue alert, is called "It's Not Easy Being Me." Me meaning you. So this is another
me, because it's all about me.
Well,
it's funny, that's the first line that I said at the beginning of this podcast.
Well, it is though, and we featured a lot of music on this show, and it might as well be yours. You're the co-host, and your music's awesome. And this is rare. This is rare. And this is rare stuff, so it's a treat for everybody to be able to hear this. You literally can't get this anywhere else, at least at the moment, other than this podcast. So let's listen to this song. This is another cool one. It's called "It's Not Easy Being Me."
Illusionary wonder, if only for to die. Captured by a feeling, nothing's for good. Believe in what you say. Long days, cold nights. Wow, what's the difference to me? Yeah. Wrong place, wrong time. Wow, it's not difficult to see. Yeah. Listen to the voices that ring inside my head, capsizing on the water. I know the waves, they're coming now, and it all comes crashing down. Long days, cold nights. Well, what's the difference to me? Yeah. Long place, long time. so you soon discover. Sleep with a friend 'cause you need a lover now. How somebody said that you need a mother, falling apart at the seams. You've got to pull it together somehow. It don't change and it all comes crashing down. Ooh, that long days, cold nights. Well, what's the difference to me? Yeah, wrong place, wrong time. Well, it's not difficult to see, yeah, that it's not easy being me.
Yeah, that track has a great vibe. You know, I could picture that on Not TV. I love Vinny's drum sound, particularly his snare.
know.
His drums sound really good on that, and more prominent organ, which also fits. And it's kind of like a little emotional counterpoint to the singing, as if the organ player is feeling the same way as the singer. It's like copacetic. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you wrote a song called "It's Not Easy Being Me." It kind of follows a little bit. We were just talking about Ordinary and your childhood and all these kind of things, but you know, what was a specific inspiration for writing a song, and why isn't it easy being you, Olivia? I mean, come on.
Lots of reasons. I don't know. Because I am like these songs, a walking dichotomy, and I think anybody who hears this and identifies with it would know why it's not easy being them as well. But there, for me, you know, I just think I'm an artist and I've had a very specific plight so far, and I think that, you know, I don't know, maybe that gets back to sort of never feeling like one fitted in at a specific time, you know, having moved from London to New Mexico, a fish out of water always. I felt very much like that. But then, that being said, I'm very thankful because it gave me the impetus to want to be an artist, because it gave me things to write about, and it gave me it's given me a boldness to pursue, believing that through the experiences that I've been encumbered with, from various different times in my life, that I still seem to find, it gives you a sense that, well, I have something to say, because I see things in a very specific way, and probably a very unique way, and so when I write music, I try and express that. And, you know, when I play a part, I try to express that too. You know, it's sort of like, all you have, as they say, as an actor, is your choices. So from an acting perspective, it's similar to a songwriting perspective, is that you just have to really personalize it to you. And so if you're bereft of experiences or some confliction, and if things have been perfect and rosy all the time, it's harder to find a way in to have something to say.
That's a great point.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a deep motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? I'm a deep motherfucker. Okay.
Well, you know, just so it isn't all about you, so it can be a little bit about me. One thing about my writing is, you know, a lot of people. I remember Steven Tyler saying, you know, when you're a musician and you're mad at somebody, that's how you get them. You write a song about them. We're going to get you. one thing about me is when I have a really bad experience, I'm really mad at a particular person. I don't like to immortalize it in song. I don't like to capture that experience in song because in one way, I don't want to like relive it. But on another way, I don't want to give that person enough credit that they were worth writing a song about. You know what I mean? So if I'm going to do like a sort of critical thing, it would definitely be more general. It would never be about a specific person. My thing is more like, to try and find the positive. Like, in other words, like, well, this situation sucks, but ultimately I'm the one who's going to come out okay and you're not. And then write about that. Find some like kernel of positivity in it, because I've had situations like bad breakup or this or that or whatever. And like, I don't want to sit and dwell on it. And even, it seems logical to write about it because it's an emotional release and it's a chance to channel those feelings and stuff. I think I'm more in tune with you in terms of putting a little ambiguity in there. Maybe don't give the whole, show your entire hand, maybe hold back some of the facts so people don't really know, it's not so blatant and so obvious, what you've written about. And it makes things more intriguing to listen to because there's a lot of what I would call disposable. You kept using the phrase throw away on that other track you were talking about. Just meaning don't take it too serious, maybe throw it away, not literally trash it. But there's a lot of music that I consider disposable because it is really nothing to it. You know what I mean? It's like maybe a groove and a silly repetitive chorus and there's really nothing else to it. So they don't expect it to have a shelf life. But the music that you and I tend to spotlight, like even in our early going when you were bringing out Steely Dan songs and other kind of stuff, it's the stuff you can listen to again and again and again and again. And you need to think about that as a writer, don't be so literal or so obvious and everything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love everything that you just said and I completely agree with it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody. No, it's good.
Well, you gotta go now. It's interesting that particular song really out of everything that we played from that developmental part of my songwriting and it didn't come out as an album. I mean, maybe I will release it. But that song really speaks to, I feel like that kind of like I crossed a line and I really connected with exposing a deeper side of myself and that's the other thing, a lot of songwriters say, oh, well, I don't want to wear my heart so much on my sleeve and what have you. But, if you've suffered through things or depression or, you just have a melancholic bone in your body, you can't stray away from it. It may be just one part of who you are, but you have to let all the colors show, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then when you get in the studio or you get to actually recording it, you can see how much you want to play with the light and shade. So it's not so, exposed like it's a bare wound, you know what I mean? Then you start to contrast it like artists do with their palette and their canvas and they mix different colors together so that you have the inflections and it's there, it's an underlying feeling, but it's not just all one color. And what I love about that song is it's the lyrics are, can't see my face because I'm undercover. Nothing's for good, so you soon discover. Sleep with a friend because you need a lover now. Somebody said that you need a mother. Falling apart at the seams, you've got to pull it together somehow. But it don't change, and it all comes crashing down. Not unlike Medicine Girl, there's that melancholic bone, that color that kind of comes out, and it shows itself in different ways. Through maybe talking about somebody else in the song and being compassionate to them because you understand how they feel, or it veers into maybe another person that you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? So you can change the narration at any point in time. And I think that's what I was really discovering with this particular song.
Well, it seems to me like Melancholic Bone should be a band name. Somebody maybe like a blues club band should just call themselves Melancholic Bone tonight.
Yeah.
Thursday at 9. Well, I think if you want to make a genuine connection with listeners, you have to be authentic. And if you've been hurt or if you've suffered, like you said, and you present that in your art, not just music, but any art, acting, painting, if you present that genuinely and people can relate to it because they know it's real. It's not like you said, let me write a song about, let's imagine this happened and that, all the Barry Manilow songs, like the first time I heard Mandy, and, I said, well, this is a songwriting team who just came up with something that sounded good. I didn't believe anybody the guy singing that song had anything. It was no more than just and there's a place for that. But he was like, well, this sounds good. I'll sing this. And Elton John said sometimes he didn't even understand what Bernie Taupin had written, but he would write, music for it, go out and perform it and sing it. And he didn't even necessarily know what Take Me to the Pilot even meant, So, and it still might have connected with people on just a sonic level, like just they like the sound of it. And we all have those experiences where we think a song means a certain thing and we find out years later it means something different than we thought it did. Like I didn't know that All of My Love by Led Zeppelin was about Robert's son who died. I figured it was a romantic thing. All of my love to you, like a girlfriend or a wife. And then once I knew it was about his little boy who had died, it took on entirely different poignancy.
I didn't know that. That's so interesting. I thank you for sharing that with us today. I'm going to have to re-listen to that track and I'm sure it'll give a whole new meaning. I always love that, when people don't necessarily come out with, the song's really about this, and it's always so great to sort of hear 10 years later, 20 years later, well, actually, it was once mentioned, it makes it that much more valuable.
Well, it's been a lot of fun listening to these rare recordings, and there are more in the vault. We have not even come close to emptying the vault, so we'll definitely have to do this again at some point, and I know you guys will enjoy that. And Olivia, as you prepare for your next album, are you thinking about releasing some of these exact recordings or doing new versions of them, or some of these you just moved past them? Because I know you have a lot of stuff in progress.
Yeah, I think that no, I would just sort of keep them as they are. I mean, if anything, I think what I've learned from doing different versions of certain songs is they brought you to where you are now, and I feel like that's in the past. When I write stuff now, it's much more okay. This is what it is, and I'm so much more sure of the initial kernel that comes out is where the magic lies. I know that about myself now, that I don't know, luckily I started writing music at a time where they were still developing artists, and so I was very lucky to catch that wave of working with such a great producer like Patrick Leonard, who really took the time to kind of work with me and help me find, my sound, which ultimately, I think if you do that right, it ends up becoming much more specific and raw. And that you want to get to a place as an artist where you feel comfortable being as raw as you can be when you sit down and play a song, just piano and voice or guitar and voice. The more comfortable you get with your narrative voice and your singing voice and your playing as a musician, ultimately, I think music sounds best that way, where it's really stripped away and you don't need so much production around you. So to answer your question in a very elongated fashion, no, I would leave them as they are. And they're kind of beautiful as they are. And it's really, the stuff I'll be releasing now will be very different. Well, not very different. It's definitely rooted in the same place as the Not TV stuff and this other stuff prior to that, but maybe not quite as polished. I mean, professional sounding, but a little bit more stripped away.
Yeah, no, I mean, there are a lot of elements on your recordings, layers of keyboards and strings that it's really just a production decision, Yeah. Like I've recorded things where I like to layer a lot of stuff in. It just sounds cool. But you're right. Sometimes, if you just listen to like an upright bass player, a piano player, a drummer and a compelling lead vocalist, maybe someone does a little trumpet solo, sometimes fewer elements. You basically, like you said earlier, you just need to follow whatever you feel like doing at the time. But because this is older stuff that may never see the light of day commercially, it just makes it that much more special that you shared it with our listeners, and not only shared it, but actually, spoke quite a bit about it. It was edifying, and one of the unique advantages of being an Every Friday with Dan and Olivia listener.
Absolutely. That's so true.
Well, as a person who knows what else is in the vault, I mean, not all of it, but the stuff you shared with me, we can do another one and maybe two of these where we unearth some of these gems and share them with everybody. But we've spoken quite a bit, listened to a lot of music, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this one.
And on an end note, I think that, Dan, we should play the song that you just spoke about by Led Zeppelin, specifically by Robert Plant, who wrote this song about his beautiful little boy that he lost much too soon. Let's listen to it again with open ears and an open heart.
Well, that's beautifully said, and I think that's a great idea. So we'll go ahead and give the last word to Robert Plant, and we'll thank everybody for listening, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.